Housing is like a really huge area where a lot of BIPOCs, which is Black, Indigenous people of color, do not have access to housing or similar access to housing as the white population in the United States. I also own my own human resources consulting business, so CEO and founder of Phillips HR Group. And again, I also work with small nonprofits or startup businesses that require human resources functions to be done for their business or the organization. However, I don't have the money for it. So I kind of come in and do all things HR, all functions of HR. And my focus, even in that particular area, has always been with the nonprofit sector, and it also around BIPOC owners, minorities, women of color, women-owned businesses. And again, I have really enjoyed that. So again, most of what I do is really around trying to work with individuals and groups and organizations that always have this drive to help people of color in this country.
Thank you so much, and it's so good to see you, and it's just wonderful to hear the wonderful things that different Zambians are doing. We've always been low-key, haven't we? Yeah. And so this is an opportunity for us to really leverage each other's relationships. I see somebody I haven't seen in a long time, Tandy. Tandy and I went to school together, so I'm going to put you on the spot. And so I'm going to have you introduce yourself real quick and share with the others your interest in networking. And then we're going to head, and Chita will take on from this, and we'll get started at 11. Tandy, I think if you're talking, you're on mute.
Sorry. My name is Tandy Conje. I work at Columbia University Medical Center. I'm in genetics. I've been working with children born with inborn errors of metabolism, working in a primarily minority area where we have a lot of children born with these genetic diseases with low access to the care that they need. And one of my aims going forward is to see how we can improve access to this care in minority communities.
Thank you so much. And Chita, over to you. Welcome, everyone. Chita, it's all yours.
Thank you, Frida, and thank you to all our attendees. Sounds like we have not only a very impressive group of speakers, but a very impressive audience as well. I'm Chita Kabulo. I'm a CPA and a manager with Deloitte & Touche in the advisory practice, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session. First up, we have Rose Sibisi all the way from Zambia. Rose, welcome. Thank you for being here. I will play a quick introductory video to introduce Rose. So this is Rose. Welcome.
I am Rose, and this is the path that shows. And just like a flower, I will blossom to the first light. There comes the rain, then comes the cold, then comes the sunlight. I will grow, I will flourish, just like a rose.
This is Rose CBC. I am your host for Style with Roses TV talk show. We are always talking budding, blossoming, and flourishing roses. And this season promises to be even more exciting as we bring you inspirational and impacting stories from across Africa, starting from Zambia. So you don't want to miss this particular season. It's got a twist, it's exciting, it's bringing you bigger and better stories. And who better to share them with than movers and shakers, innovative, budding, blossoming, and flourishing personalities on my couch, only on Style with Roses.
Rose, welcome. Please give us a little bit more background on who you are and your show and your current role, and then share the wisdom you prepared around.
And a very good afternoon to everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rose.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm so excited to be joining you. I do hope that our technology won't fail us. I've had some challenges this afternoon. We've got several power cuts out in Zambia, so I hope it doesn't interrupt our amazing afternoon. We've only got 15 minutes. I'm going to be really quick. I hope you had a glimpse of what it is that I'm all about. So I am based in Zambia at the moment, but I've been in the diaspora for about 17 years up in South Africa. And I came back home just about 3 years ago. And ever since I came back, this is what has been on my heart, where I felt that there is a need for us to bring back a piece of the value and the beauty of what and who Zambians are. And out of Africa, I've been spending a lot of time putting together this media platform that you've just witnessed a glimpse of, which was the second season of the Style with Roses TV talk show. I've only had about 2 seasons so far, and purely from the basis of that, everything that you have seen put together there has been self-invested and self-funded. So it's one of those that is growing, and it's something that we can all jump into in order to make an impact and have our voices heard. Because so often as Africans, when we are based in the diaspora, there's a misconception that when we are out there, we're doing menial jobs and we're not even impacting or contributing to the economy back home. So this is what this platform is all about. And I just want to quickly take you through some further introductions before I go further into what I want to share with you this afternoon. Let me see if I can share a screen. Do I have hosting rights, Cheetah?
Yes, you should, yes.
Okay, great. So we should be back on. I hope are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. So quickly going through it a little bit about an introduction of who I am. So I've got 25 years of corporate experience, and I've been privileged to work in Zambia for about 11 years before I moved over to South Africa in 2002. And while I was in South Africa, I was honored to work for 4 multinational organizations such as MultiChoice. I worked for Sony South Africa, I worked for BMW South Africa, and then my final stop before I transitioned into being an entrepreneur was working for a nonprofit organization called Charities Aid Foundation. This is pretty much what really inspired me to take a leap of faith and step out into doing something that was really on my heart. Because at that point, I felt I was really equipped with a lot of knowledge of 25 years from the corporate space of putting ideas together, going through change management, dealing with people at different levels, and understanding that there was a gap in the way in which we wanted to communicate and tell our own stories as Africans. And that's where the inspiration of Style with Roses came from. When we move along, what you see here is my beautiful family. I've been blessed to have children that were a nightmare when I was having them, because I had them very early in my 20s. So you can imagine it was not easy at all. But look at them now, all fully blossomed and flourishing on. So we've got 4 children, boy, girl. So my eldest son, I'm not going to say ages, because then now you start guessing and figuring out, okay, where is she now? But we've been blessed with 4 amazing children. My children have also experienced the 2 beautiful parts of Africa, having been born in Zambia, but then we took them to South Africa, the eldest 2, when they were just young themselves as well. So they have a bit of Zambia in them, and now they've come back home, but they now belong to 2 main countries in Africa. So we're very grateful for that opportunity. So this is my private side. This is my strong side. These are my biggest cheerleaders. These are my faithful go-tos and say, Mom, go for it, you can do it. So that's my family that keeps me grounded. In terms of some of the things that I have done, so pretty much I have so many hats that I wear. Over the years, I've found that in building this platform, one of the main things that has allowed me to reach the stage at which I am now has been networks. It has been a lot of engagements of coming back to people that I grew up with, people that I worked with, and also just understanding what my strengths and my passions were. So the different types of hats that I wear is I am an MC and a program director where I host high-level events for corporates at a premium level. That is my niche. And as such, many of the guests that I speak to, I then translate and bring them onto the platform of the talk show. Hosting events has been one of the mainstays of the business that I established, Style with Roses, which has got three main pillars. So there's the media pillar, there's the events pillar where I host live events as well as on behalf of our clients because we're a PR and media company. And then also there's the side where I actually host Find My Strength. So it's being that effective communicator, ensuring that you pay attention to detail as well as understand what it is that the client is looking for. And then I also have a huge knack for style and fashion. So I'm sure you see the difference.
I think we're
different dynamics of who I am, local fashion designers that are upcoming and doing a great job in growing the fashion industry in Zambia and in Africa. So that's my way of supporting and contributing to the growth of that industry. So what is Style with Roses? Beginning of a voice that wants to push. Hi, Cheetah.
No, I was going to say you dropped a little bit there, but
okay,
we can keep going. You're back on.
Am I back now?
Yes, you are.
Maybe I should switch off my, okay, so let me just see if I can stop my video and maybe that should help. So Style with Roses comes from a place of understanding the value of a lifestyle as we know it. It's a way of doing life. It's a consistent way. It has got a value that is so unique to us, to our own identity. And we define that through the purpose that we serve. So Style with Roses then becomes this medium where I speak to women particularly and bring out what their contribution is. I mean, the unique experiences of the human being is that when we are grieving, we use roses, white roses. When we're getting married, we express love with white roses, which express purity. When we have friends, we have pink and red. So all these different dynamics is what I bring to the center of this platform to talk about how beautiful we are, especially as Africans. So through this platform, we actually have a call to action where I then challenge us as women, as Africans, and as Zambians to pass on the rose to the upcoming generation so that we encourage them to turn their creative ideas into bankable business propositions. So this is why this platform exists. Moving along in finding out the corporate space. In recent times, a few months ago, I have been appointed as the CEO of CBC TV in Zambia. It's a private television station that is actually broadcasting in the SADC region and sits on 4 main platforms, the largest being DSTV and GoTV, which reach more than 700,000 homes in Africa. And this was a very good example of preparation meeting opportunity, which is pretty much what we want to talk about today, on the value of you breaking down your limitations and coming out of the box. Because when you have conviction of what it is that you're doing, you have to be able to be ready to grab an opportunity when it comes. So CBC Television has now become that home for Style with Roses that's going to allow us to be able to have our own platform where we can create more experiences when it comes to interviews and the number of people we can reach through this platform. Because previously the limitation has been around the high production costs because I don't have my own equipment yet. I still have to set up that studio. So merging with a TV station such as CBC Television provides that opportunity to allow this platform to scale up. hey, we've had the Oprah Winfrey's in the United States, we've got Moa Budu in West Africa, we've had our Rose CBC coming out of Zambia. And that is the intention of what Star with Roses intends to achieve. So coming back to the heart of what we want to talk about today and the conversation, giving you the courage to let go of certainties. Because when you take the entrepreneurial route, when you go out into the diaspora, as many of you have, you're in a place that wasn't originally your home, but you've made it your home. Many of you have been there for 5 years, 10 years and 20 years, but you still have a piece that is certain. And I think if there is anything that COVID has taught us in this experience is that there's nothing that is set in stone. There is nothing that can box us or limit us. And so coming together this afternoon and sharing our stories is already a start of something beautiful, something dynamic, our experiences, and take our stories out into the world. So that is what I'm looking forward to. And I am so excited about connecting with each one of you that has really joined us this afternoon. And we look at the opportunities that we have when it comes to barriers that limit us. So please do give all these details to Chita, and we can get talking and having conversations through Frida and the organizers of this amazing conversation this afternoon. So that's just a little bit about myself. I'm happy to take questions, comments, so that we can have the conversation going with the few minutes that I have left in my segment.
All right, Rose, I will share your link to your site that has a lot more detail about you, and the link to your new network, which I did look at. Had a lot of young women who are following your path and your footsteps. I saw them telling one's on there. Me and her went to Benga Girls at the same time, so I was really excited to see that feature. But and then at the end of this, if everybody wants to go ahead and share their questions in the chat feature, we will have a dedicated session for Q&A, and we can pose those questions to Rose at that time. Right now, I will invite our next speaker to share his wisdom and introduce himself. We have Hugh Malozzi, who is a founder, an investor, a dad, and is based in the West Coast. Hugh, I know you are also our co-presenter. Please go ahead and share your screen and kick off your part of the presentation. I think you're on mute.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I'll use some photos, but hopefully this will be informal, and I'll try and make it as interesting as I can for everybody. But just to give you a little background on myself, I was born and grew up in Zambia. My parents were South African exiles. This is a picture of me with my mother. And of course, I'm really dating myself because that picture, that car in the background, it wasn't an antique when this photo was taken. This next photo is also to date myself, but this is a photo of me when I was about 16. So as all of you know, part of our rite of passage into adulthood as Zambians is when we get our registration card. So this is what I looked like. And so I went to school, different schools. I went to Jacaranda, Lusaka Boys, Woodlands, and then I went to Liwala Secondary School. And then I came to the States for university. I studied at the University of Southern Mississippi. And then I got my graduate degree at Santa Clara University here in Silicon Valley. I studied computer engineering. And my first job was at Hewlett Packard as a software developer. But I ended up spending most of my career at a company called Intuit, which you may be familiar with. This is my first company badge at Intuit. Intuit makes TurboTax and QuickBooks. I actually worked in the division that makes QuickBooks. And I had a 22-year career at Intuit, so I was very blessed to have a really great career there, where I got to do lots of interesting work. The niche I established for myself at Intuit is I helped to launch several new products to market. Many of them didn't pan out, but there were a few notable successes, including Intuit Payments. I helped start the payments business at Intuit. Payments is a big business there now. It's an over $1 billion business. And because of that work, in 2011, I was given the Intuit Founders Innovation Award. So this is a picture of me with Scott Cook, who's the Intuit founder, and Brad Smith, who was the CEO at the time. I did leave Intuit in 2015. My last position there was Vice President of Innovation. And I decided to start Ujamaa, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later. But this last photo I just wanted to share is of me and my wife and daughters showing off our Ujamaa swag. So today I was asked to talk about the importance of networking and especially from my perspective, my personality type. I'm an introvert. And as an introvert, it's particularly important that we are very explicit, very purposeful about networking, and I'll explain why. But let me start off with a joke. Do you know the difference between an introverted engineer and an extroverted engineer? Well, if you're talking to an extroverted engineer, they don't make eye contact, they're looking at your shoes. If you're talking to an introverted engineer, they're looking at their own shoes. That's the difference. So anyway, people confuse introversion with this notion that, people who are socially awkward or who don't like being in social settings. And actually, that's not actually the right definition. You'll find introverts actually enjoy company. They enjoy being in social situations. They enjoy going to parties. But the issue is more about energy. If you're an introvert and you're interacting with people, at some point you become very tired. It drains your energy. Whereas if you're an extrovert, you'll find that extroverts, they actually gain energy the more they are interacting with people. And that really is the primary difference. And so it just means that the place of most comfort, if you're an introvert, is really when you're doing things by yourself or in quiet settings, which tends to overlap with people who choose a field like engineering to work in. And so, in my career, for me, my attitude a lot of times was put my head down, do good work. The work will speak for itself. People will recognize it and good things will happen. And to a degree that is certainly true. But one of the things that I tell people is that the world belongs to extroverts. And the reason I say that is because, a lot of opportunity, you have to go out and find it. It won't necessarily come to you. People won't necessarily know about the kind of work you do if you're not out there meeting people and talking about yourself. And of course, this is something that extroverts do naturally. And so opportunities come to them. And so in my career, and I learned this fairly late along the way about how much opportunity I was missing out on by not being much more purposeful about networking. And I'll share a particular story which will illustrate the importance of it. So I have a picture here of me at an event where I was part of a fireside chat. Well, what actually led up to this event was, I was, again, working at Intuit. A fellow executive had sent an email to me. Basically, it was actually an email to the person you see in this picture, Mike Grandinetti, and she had copied me. But basically, Mike had asked this colleague of mine, Allison, to come and speak at this event. And this event was being held by a business school in San Francisco called Hult University. And they have every year an event, it's called JUMP. I forget what the acronym stands for, but they have it on a Saturday in San Francisco. And they wanted somebody from Intuit to come and speak to the audience. And so Allison replied saying, no, she can't do it. She has a conflict, but I'm copying Hugh and maybe Hugh can do it. So this is the email I received. And again, you know, as an introvert, I was actually a little bit annoyed that Allison did it that way, because I was thinking to myself, if she wanted me to possibly go to this thing, she should have reached out to me separately, and then I could have told her yes or no, but now I was on the spot because she copied this guy. You know, plus the event was on a Saturday. You know, Saturdays I like to spend doing fun things like playing soccer or resting, but now I was going to have to drive up to the city and give this this talk. So hopefully you can get a sense that I felt like my arm was twisted and I was forced into doing something I didn't really want to do. But I felt like I should say yes rather than make it awkward. So I did agree to go and speak. So I went to this event and I spoke to this audience. But what happened afterwards was quite remarkable. So the first thing was when I got off stage, you know, a bunch of people wanted to speak to me. One of them was a group of students. And they told me, you know, we're taking part in a global innovation contest that is being held, that consists of hundreds of teams from around the globe at different universities. And we are one of those teams. And we wanted to know if you could be our advisor. And I said, yeah, sure, I'm happy to be your advisor. And so, you know, after that event, you know, I advised that team you know, we had a few meetings after that. But that team actually became a finalist. They were one of 5 finalists for this competition. So the competition is, if you win, you get to start a company and you get $1 million of funding to start this company. And so the finalist, the winner is chosen at the Clinton Global Initiative. And so because of the fact that I was an advisor of this team, I got to be invited to go to the Clinton Global Initiative and watch them pitch. You know, unfortunately, they didn't win. But of course, going to this event in New York was quite an experience. I actually got to shake hands with Bill Clinton. And of course, what was amazing about it is, of course, none of this would have happened, you know, if I hadn't agreed to go and speak at this event. But that wasn't the only thing that happened. At the same event, you know, again, after I got off stage, somebody came up to me and said, hey, you know, I really enjoyed your presentation today. Would you, you know, we're opening a university in the Ukraine. Would you be willing to come and speak? And, you know, I thought, okay, that's kind of a strange request. But I said to him, sure, you know, that sounds interesting to me. Well, probably about a year later, I actually ended up going to Ukraine as part of a delegation from America. We got to meet many Ukrainian government officials. By the way, all of this happened before the war broke out in Ukraine. But we were part of an event where they were opening what they were calling Bionic University. So it's a university campus, but also a startup accelerator facility where they were trying to, their goal was to jumpstart an ecosystem around technology to help the Ukrainian economy. The photo that I enjoy the most is the one here on the bottom right, because that is my name in Cyrillic characters. For those of you who can read Cyrillic. So again, I never in a million years ever thought I would visit Ukraine. It's actually a very beautiful country, a lot of amazing history there. But again, this only came about because I was willing to, I agreed to sacrifice a Saturday to go and speak in front of people I'd never met. And so, you know, I think on this particular point, what I'll just conclude by saying, you know, for all of us as we're navigating in our careers, you know, I think again, it's important as a foundation to make sure we do good work, we work hard, we are constantly learning, and we're constantly delivering results. But we also have to be, you know, very thoughtful about what are the things we want to do next in our career. And part of discovering opportunities, part of letting people know what we're capable of involves networking. It means you have to be out there meeting new people, meeting other leaders, and going to events where people are going to be there to, who can also introduce you to other opportunities. And so I encourage people, especially if you're an introvert like me, to say yes whenever somebody says, hey, I would like to meet, or I'd like to invite you to an event. And, you know, at this point, I did want to do a quick segue to talk about my startup Ujamaa, because hopefully you'll see that there is some relevance to what we were talking about. So Ujamaa is a platform that we've developed, which is, it connects members of communities with each other. I initially started Ujamaa with a focus of connecting parents to other parents so they could help each other with their kids. We have since broadened our focus to include other types of connections where we can help people, whether it's, you know, I'm starting a business, or whether it's I need help in other ways that I could be helped by other people in my community. And so part of what we built into this platform is a way to bring organizations onto it so that people in that organization can connect with each other. In chat, I did paste a link so that all of you can join. We have created a ZLA link so that you can join this community of Zambians in America and across the globe. And one of the things that you can do once you join Ujamaa is that you can now discover, if you go to your village, you can discover there's a directory of, that you will see of other members of ZLA. Now, why this is to me very valuable is often you may have had this experience that, oh, I didn't know there was a Zambian who was also living in my city and I hadn't met them. Well, one of the things that we do in Ujamaa, and this is, we have this directory is a way of discovering people who live near you. And specifically, you know, if I sort this by distance, what you will see is that, for example, Emmanuel here, he lives just 15 miles from me. And so here's a Zambian who is basically in my area that I can connect with. So this is one of the ways where we can discover each other. We may not know that there are others who are in our community, and the way for us to connect in person or do things that are more local to where we are. So I encourage people to check it out, join, so that we can make it easier for us to discover each other where we live. The other thing you'll see is on the app, we have a message board. So if you join, this is a place where we can communicate with each other. And so you can see Constance, who will be talking next. She's already put up a message. And so again, this is a way for us to broadly communicate. We can also let each other know about events that are happening, or, you know, if there's somebody, maybe let's say, who's raising money for a business or a venture back in Zambia, this is a way we can broadly communicate that. So again, I hope this ends up being useful for people. There are a lot of features for Ujamaa I won't get into, but I would love for you to at least sign up, and then hopefully you can discover some of the other things that you can do with the JAMA along the way. So with that, I'll give it back to Chita, and thank you everyone for the time to talk to all of you today.
Right. Thank you so much, Hugh, for sharing your background. Very interesting life you've had and career progressions and all the opportunities that you had was really cool to hear about, and learning about the power of yes, even when you're uncomfortable, especially as introverts. Next up, we have Miss Constance Monswe, dynamic woman who is a mother, a business owner, a philanthropist, and just an all-around badass. She's going to be speaking next. Constance, please share with the group a little bit about yourself, and then your take on networking to build a brand.
Yeah, I didn't start off as a badass, but I guess it became one in time. So meet my beautiful daughters, Esther's 7 and Emma's 15. And so during COVID, it's been very interesting because I've been doing the distance learning thing, and I don't like it. I'm ready for my kids to go back to school. So let me tell you, I think I'm going to sort of like reverse the story, because I think my panelists, Hugh and Rose, did such a good job. And you guys, I don't have PowerPoints from you, but I'll speak from the heart. And I think that's always important in a forum like this. So yes, born and raised in Zambia. I came to the United States when I was 13. I did spend, I think, from the ages of 2 to about 6 in London. My parents did their masters in the UK. So like most African parents, I have extremely educated parents. My dad has 4 masters and 2 PhDs. My mom has 2 masters. So I come from the school, the type of family where education was number one. Entrepreneurship was not, but education was number one. And I strayed away from that in a very dramatic way. But to sort of let you know that life in Zambia was not easy for me because I was sick. I was one of those kids that spent more time sick than being outside. I had a severe case of tonsillitis that the doctors couldn't quite figure out. So Zambia was hard. So I went to St. Mary's for primary school. I didn't make it through the testing into secondary school, so I went to Leopards Hill, but I loved my time at Leopards Hill, even though it was short. It was a party school, and I learned a lot when it came to business there. And so I definitely want to let you guys know that, sometimes, as I talk about, and I'm going to talk about the companies that I've started, all my companies have done over $1 million in revenue, but I want to sort of preface that it's not because I was smart or gifted or that I did well. I didn't go to, our great universities or schools, especially in secondary school, but, I sort of give you guys a foundational aspect of that. So I came here when I was 13, which is a freshman in high school. And high school in the US was rough. I went to La Mirada High, which was an all-white neighborhood. And I think I was 1 out of 5 Black people in our entire university. And so it was difficult. I got into trouble a lot in high school. And I ended up not attending a lot of classes, to be quite honest. But what I've always done, since I was 7, I've always sold. So whatever I could get my hands on, I would sell. And so in high school, my go-to place was to sell candy. And so in America, a lot of high school students sell candy as part of being part of a sports club, or if you're part of like a cheerleading squad, you sell like candy. But I wasn't part of any of those, but I convinced my dad to give me $1. And I went to the 99-cent store and I bought 4 pieces of candy. And then I went to school and I sold each piece of candy for 50 cents. And then I took my profits, reinvested it into more candy, and I kept selling candy. And I found a lot of relief as I went through high school to sell candy. And then I did art. I was really good in art. And I actually thought that I would graduate high school and become an architect, but I have a very traditional Tonga father who says, architect is not a woman's career. So I actually graduated high school and did my undergrad in human resources and my master's in healthcare administration. A quick fact is that I actually worked at the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. When I graduated high school and I was flipping burgers and selling fries. So I don't know if that's a very attractive job, but that's what I did as my first job out of high school. So as my career progressed, I think when I was 19, I just think that it's maybe just a favor of God. I don't know. I won't give myself necessarily credit or my brain's credit, but I took a job to be the HR assistant for the Hilton Hotel. Well, the director of HR never came back. So at 19, I found myself being the first Black woman director of the Hilton Hotel in like Southern California area at 19. And that taught me a lot just in terms of business. You know, all of a sudden at 19, I'm responsible for over 200 employees. And, you know, at that same time, I was, you know, getting married and trying to figure out what life had for me. But all you guys, I forgot a really important part. When I was 17, my immune system shut down. And this is a really important part of my story. And I like to share it because I think that people need to know that sometimes your road to success is going to be paved by so many road bumps, and you need to kind of figure out, you know, how you're going to navigate it. So at 17, my senior year in high school, my immune system shut down. I spent 3 weeks in a coma and 3 months in a hospital right here in Southern California, St. Jude's. And the doctors gave me 24 hours to live and that whole bit. And I really felt that life was over for me. So after going through that journey, realized that I had a lot more to live for, right? So I had this sort of aggressiveness in terms of how I managed life. So Disney happened, Hilton happened, got a job as employment director for Hyatt Hotels after that. Then found myself working for as an HR generalist for a major aerospace company. While I was there, and this is where networking really started to happen for me. While I was there, I used to hire engineers from this company called StreamTech. And so I would hire all my engineers from this particular company. The owner and I became really good friends. And she asked me one day when I was 25, she says, have you ever thought about going into business for yourself? Well, up to that point, I had always been selling, you guys. So even when I worked at the Hilton and the Hyatt hotels in major director positions, I spent my weekends at swap meets selling stuff. You know, I spent my weekends, I've always had side hustles. I've always done things on the side. It's never been 100% employment for me. And so she said, had you ever started, thought about starting a staffing company? And I hadn't, but by that time I had developed such a close bond with her and her friend and her family. I would take, gifts to her kids over the weekend. I knew she was important. I didn't know why, but I did invest in my relationship with her. And so at 25, she says, I think that you should start a staffing company. And I said, sounds like a good idea. Where do I start? She says, I'll be your mentor. But more than that, I'm going to give you $100,000 to start your first company. And a lot of that is because she trusted me and I invested in her, in our relationship. So at 25, I started my first company in the US. And I was just like, blown away. Of course, my family thought I was completely crazy leaving corporate America to start a business at 25. Like, you are like out of your mind. And so I did, but I took that business from 0 to 1.3 million in 12 months, and since then I have built 4 businesses from the ground up. I guess my largest success would be selling my ITH staffing company and to a company that was valued at over $100 million. And yeah, and that was wild. And going to be the, COO of a company that was valued at over $100 million was like really significant. But part of that journey, you guys, I have started 4 companies, but I also had a major loss. I lost my husband in 2014, who passed away in a car accident. And what a lot of people don't know about that particular story is that I started my largest staffing company 7 months after he passed away. But the only reason I was able to do that is because of networking. So when he passed away, in fact, actually, what was interesting, he passed away in February, but the December before he passed away, we were having coffee, and he said to me, he says, Constance, if anything happened to me, I know you would go back to staffing. Because at that point we had a training center, again, which was built on the back of networking. And so we had a training center, but we were having one of those, conversations that couples have. And in December, I called a friend of mine that I had met. I wouldn't even say she was a friend, more like a colleague. I had met several years back when I had my first staffing company at 25. I called her and I said, hey, I'm thinking I may want to go back into the staffing space. I'm not sure, what do you know about what's going on in staffing and recruitment in the United States right now? And she said, what's your email address? I'll send you a contract. I said, okay, sure. And I'm thinking like, you guys, for real, I'm thinking like, you know what, this is just going to be a small contract, not a big deal. Well, she sent me a contract that was worth like over $1 billion over the next 10 years, like something like, it was like crazy amount of money. And that's just because I met her 10 years ago and I kept in touch with her over the years. So when I started my staffing company 7 months after Chiveza passed away, was with the largest contracts doing business with the entire state of California, all the prisons in the entire United States of California. And that's because of networking and buying my way into networks. And that's one of the things that Frida and I always talk about, is that I'm a big proponent of paying for my network. What does that mean? When you come to the United States and you're from Zambia, you may not have access to the who's who, the people who actually control $1 million or $1 billion contracts. So what do? You pay for the dinners where they go to. You pay for the events that they go to. You buy memberships into organizations that they belong to. And I've always done that. In fact, it's part of my annual budget to pay for networking events. So whether I am paying to be part of a membership, like right now I'm part of an organization called Women's President Organization, WPO. In order for you to even be part of that organization, your business has to do it a minimum of $3 million a year to be just a member. And I pay for this annually. But guess who I am meeting with every month? Are women who have businesses that do 10, 50, 100, 300, 400 million. These are the people I'm breaking bread with. So when I'm paying for that, it's only costing me $2,000 a year. I am paying for that network. I am paying for access to the network. And so a lot of times it's like, how did you grow your businesses? I paid for them. I paid for that access, and through that access I've met incredible people, and those people have opened up amazing doors for me. And so now I'm on my 4th startup, you guys. I actually started from the ground up again, my 4th staffing company last May, and it's like, starting from the beginning. And I am still leveraging my network to get access to those contracts. So now I work with organizations like Kaiser and St. Joe's. And if you guys are in the US, you're familiar with these national organizations, but it's because I value that. And so I guess my spin on networking is to be active. It's to pay for it, go to those dinners that may cost a lot of money and save up for it, just like you would save up for anything. I live a very average life, so I can pay to do these things. You know, I fly business class and first class, not because I necessarily have the budget for it, but that's where people who I need to speak to hang out, you know, and so that's kind of, I think my take on networking a lot of times is that you have to be very strategic. So let me actually just maybe give everybody a little bit of context. I've always had a list of people I wanted to meet and why. You know, so I have an ongoing list of 100 people I want to meet and why. Why is it important for me to meet those people, and how are they going to impact my business? Right, so that's important. You have to be very strategic. So it's not, I don't want to give the impression that you should just go out there and just spend a lot of money, you know, just attending events. You know, be very specific about who you want to meet, why you want to meet. Find a list of the associations that are going to impact your business and why you need to join them. And then create a budget. So that way, even if you're starting small, you know sort of where you're going, you know, so it's almost like know your end from your beginning. So know where you want to be 5 years from now and work backwards. So I want to be here 5 years. What do I need to do now? Who do I need to meet? Who do I need to associate with? What networks do I need to be involved? And then like move forward step by step along your journey and move forward and then create a path. And that's what has allowed me to start my businesses from ground zero and grow them. And I'm a sort of start your business, grow and sell type of girl. You know, I don't hold my business. It's just not in my type of personality. I like to sort of move them along, but I've always had a plan. So even now, I know where I want my business to be 5 years ago. I know exactly how much revenue I want the business to do. I know exactly how many people I need to hire, and then I know exactly who I need to meet to achieve those goals. So every day I'm networking on LinkedIn, I'm calling people, I'm asking for strategic connections, you know, and I'm going out there and being very intentional about what I'm doing to develop and grow my network and develop friends. And so when you develop friendships, oftentimes you don't even need to ask for the business. They would just say, hey, Constance, you do staffing and, you know, here's a contract for you. Most of my contracts I've gotten because of that. You know, so that's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Constance. I think if nothing else, I think everybody on the call is pretty inspired by your story and your tenacity to just start over again and you know, achieve so much success. So yeah. We just had a question that came through, I think specifically for you. Somebody asked, what insights or advice do you have for somebody looking to start their own staffing agency? And that's from my friend Bisha from Dominica. Hi, Bisha.
Yeah. You know what, you guys, I actually think that staffing and recruitment is a great business. You know, organizations need people. As long as they need people, you're, you know, in business. But I feel like have a niche. Staffing, at least in the US right now, is being very specific. So do you want to do staffing for finance? Do you want to do staffing for profits or non-for-profit? So being very specific about the niche that you want to develop and then grow your network within that specific niche would be the best way to start.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a question for all panelists. I think one of the things that we heard about is, you know, to borrow CVS's words, is bud, blossom, flourish. Constance, you talked about that, you know, starting, growing it, and then selling it. When did you have your moment of, you know, realizing your superpower or realizing kind of your potential? And then how did that affect how you walked into rooms and how you started to interact with others when building your networks?
It's so interesting. It's just even now, if you guys look at my LinkedIn profile, I've never referred to myself as a CEO, president. I don't use those terms. And people always ask me why. Why don't you take ownership of your companies? A lot of times it's because of my insecurity. So a lot of times you think that when you grow $1 million businesses that you're secure. No, I mean, I think being a Black woman in America is tough. And a lot of times you don't get business being a Black woman in America. And so I have used titles. You know, I am director of operations. I am the COO. And you know, that's part of strategic networking, is that you have to know what position you need to play. So if you're doing business development, your title needs to reflect business development. Right. I mean, so it's a lot of it is you think you have to really put yourself back and say, how are other corporations structured? And you need to structure yourself the same way. A lot of times we want to put ourselves in this sort of like, you know, I own this at this. Unless if that's advantageous to you networking, you need to have a title that is appropriate. So a lot of times when I was doing business development for my companies, I was the director of business development. That's a title that I held, and that helped me get into doors. And so I guess that's my response to that. Yeah, did I answer that question? Did I miss a part? Oh, okay.
No, that's good.
All right, cool.
Rose, I saw you unmuted your mic. Did you want to add on or give a response as well?
No, I'm just like very awed by Constance's journey, and I absolutely agree with her in terms of investing into your network, because as I attributed, one of the challenges that I have encountered in this journey is questions like, but you don't come from a traditional media industry, so what qualifies you then to run a TV station? But it's over the years that you realize that, as she's saying, when you're dynamic in your strengths and understanding how to reposition yourself for the different roles that you want to play and the type of takeout that you want with the networks that you meet, then you will adjust and align yourself to that specific outcome that you're looking for. Because in business, what also happens is your business migrates over time. So today you might need business development. The next season you might want to focus on marketing. The other season you want to focus on just human capital. So you always have to put the foot that is in that particular phase of your business and find yourself in the circles that are aligned to your vision, your strategy at that particular time. And I guess that's why corporations always look at their strategies from 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. And that's very important for us to do as entrepreneurs, because so often we undermine our own businesses when we are an entrepreneur. We try to make it very small, but you need to follow the same systems and procedures as you would running a huge corporation, because it will only be as you see it yourself. So that was just my supporting comment with what Constance has shared, which is really phenomenal. I agree with her totally, because most people tend to minimize the investment that is required. Why am I going to buy a bottle of champagne when I feel comfortable buying wine? And you also have to take heed of the person that you're seeing. There's a question here, 10 seconds. If you had to meet one of the biggest decision makers that is in your industry, what are you going to say to them? Telling them that the color of their tie is beautiful is not going to take you anywhere. You have to know exactly what you're going to say in those 10 seconds. Like, I've been looking for you all my life, and you know, this is my number. I am the next partner that you need for your business, and I am going to make you an extra $1 billion. That man or that woman is going to give you that attention in no time.
Right.
So always be positioned for a follow-up conversation when you meet critical decision makers. So I'm really, really inspired and excited to hear Constance's story, and congratulations for everything that you have achieved.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, ladies. It sounds like a lot of self-awareness and taking a step back and evaluating where you are and where you want to be, and kind of drawing a line and how you get there and who are the people who will help you get there. It's kind of what I'm hearing, and really good to know. Hugh, there was a question in the chat that came across. Somebody asked if you have any tips on how to recharge or re-up your energy as an introvert.
That's a great question. You know, I think if you have that self-awareness, you're an introvert, then you should anticipate the fact that if you go to a social gathering, you are going to get tired and need to be recharged. And I think for me, it's just really finding that quiet time. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be 30 minutes, an hour to be by myself. I might do something like, read the news, watch TV, or just lie down. But just the idea that, you have that alone time and you've scheduled it is very helpful. So for example, if you're at a conference, and many of you know this, the conference, you have events that start in the early morning and go until the late afternoon. And then after that, there is social events. And so if you don't schedule a break in there for yourself, you probably will not be at your best, especially when you bump into this person that you've been trying to meet the whole conference. Just plan on having that little bit of time to recharge where you can just be by yourself. Maybe you go back to your hotel room for half an hour and just relax.
Thank you, Hugh, for that insight. We have a question for Constance that came across. Is a lot of complaints that we hear from youth in Zambia is that they don't have the capital or the means to start a business. How has access to capital impacted the way that you start businesses, or have you had businesses that you were able to start without much capital, and kind of how would you advise people who might not have a lot of access to navigate starting a business?
Yeah, I mean, access to capital is always an issue, whether you're in Zambia or you're in the United States. It's a real part, of any business. So remember the story I said about my first business is that it was a client who says, hey, I think you can start your first staffing company, and gave me $100,000 to do it. It's networking, so if you don't, there was never a time in any of my businesses that I had the working capital to start at least the vision of the business that I wanted. It's always been through strategic networking and people. Either it starts with a business, like my first business, somebody giving me the capital to do it, or I walk in with a major contract and then I can loan against it. So in the United States, we have like factoring companies that will give you money to start businesses, but I had the contracts to back up the guarantee for that money. So this is why networking is very important, because if you don't have the money, you need to hang out with people who do, or find where they are and go there and have your pitch. Be pitch ready all the time. Be pitch ready. Make sure that whatever business idea that you have, you're able to articulate it very, very well, very specific, and that you're sharing your business idea all the time. If you believe in what you want to do, you should be talking about it all the time and finding ways to sort of put yourself in that. So in Zambia, it's going to the events where people who have the money to and yeah, and that's really the only way. It means it's kind of, the more you talk about what you want to do, the more it actually becomes a reality. You have to talk about it all the time. Talk about it all the time. It's gonna happen. But if you just kind of keep it to yourself, business never happens in silos, So.
Absolutely, thank you. And I would say that applies even for those who work in corporate America. I remember having a conversation with an employer post promotion season and saying, hey, how come this didn't happen for me? And the response was, well, we didn't know you wanted to move on, right? So if there's something that you want, you have to express yourself, even when it may seem like it's obvious, by the way you show up. I know we're at time, so I want to be respectful of people's time, but a few more questions have come across. I'd like to ask the speakers for 10 more minutes to continue the Q&A, if that's all right with everyone.
Sure.
One question that has come across, it came across for Constance, but I'd like everyone to speak on it, which is, have you faced imposter syndrome, and how do you get over that in your line of work? I know a lot of you had to step into you know, a higher platform, and I'm sure some of that comes with the territory, but how have you fought against that, and what kind of mentors, or how have you leveraged your network to kind of get over it?
Okay, so I'll jump in on my part in how I've experienced this. I'm actually going through it right now. I attributed to it earlier, where when you are viewed as not coming traditionally from the media space, it's like there's still that impression of feeling like when you're in media or running a TV station, you would have done journalism, you would have done 20 years in the media industry and having gone through the ranks. But then the whole model around running this type of business is actually 70% passion and then 20% understanding the importance of a commercial business. Because many times when you look at the space that is growing in Zambia, the digital space and the media space, which is changing very, very quickly, is that there is a perception of thinking that running a media station is around just having news or just having documentaries, but that's not all. It's a 24-hour station, and you have to define its identity. Is it going to be entertainment? Is it going to be edutainment? So when it comes to the imposter syndrome and also being a Black female, I'm going to latch onto one of Constance's points when she talked about how your title also defines us. In Zambia, we're still very much about perceptions. We're still looking at if you've got a title like a CEO, or if you drive a certain car or live in a certain area, then you will have the time of day to sit in a meeting with other decision makers. And then if you're going to sit in the boardroom, there's still that conservative behavior around men that women should be seen and not heard. So the moment you express yourself in a meeting, like very confidently, assertively, and you know what you're talking about, you come across as very arrogant and overconfident. I've lost opportunities. I was nominated to be on a board of a very huge organization in Zambia. It's state-owned. And purely from the sense that I was expressive, I was confident, I knew my subject, I knew what I was talking about, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I was denied the opportunity and no reason given. It was just, she came across as too arrogant, she was overconfident. So the imposter syndrome is still there, in the sense that there are people that feel that you don't deserve your success. And as women, we still have a long way in owning it and saying, I have created my own seat at the table. I have worked for it and I deserve it and I'm going to do it well. So this is why we are constantly needing to talk about and create issues, and how do we overcome this? So for me, I think it's just continue to be assertive, continue to believe in yourself, self-love, believe in yourself, work with like-minded.
Rose, you're cutting out again. I think we may have lost her there. So we have another.
So
sorry,
Chita, maybe, Chita, can I just jump?
Yeah, we cut out. Hugh, yes, go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to quickly jump in and say, I think the question was about imposter syndrome, and how I think about that is how we may be in a particular position and we're thinking that, what, maybe we're not worthy, maybe we're not up to snuff, and somebody's going to discover that about us. And so we have that anxiety. And I think it's very natural, especially as you progress, or especially as you get into a brand new position, to have that self-doubt, that those insecurities. But I think, one of the ways you can always help yourself is to get the support of mentors and advisors, people who are going to be there to remind you of, here are the things that we see in you that you deserve. But I think life is also a lifelong journey of self-discovery and of understanding yourself, because I think the more you understand your own strengths, your own weaknesses, the more you can overcome that imposter syndrome. The more you know that here are the things I bring to the table, and you're very confident about that.
Yeah, and if I can actually also add to that, when I started my first business at 25, so when you start a business at 25, nobody's trying to buy anything from you, especially when you're talking about multi-million-dollar staffing company. And my first contract, it took me 8 months. It took me 8 months of me going back to the same business over and over and over again. And two, they actually gave me the contract. So a lot of times when it comes to the imposter thing is to actually prove that you can deliver and what you can deliver. That client actually happened to be my client through multiple of my staff, like 3 of my staffing companies. But it took me 8 months, you know, and so part of that is to believe in your product and what you're trying to do and just keep at it. You know, this whole, like, businesses are not born overnight. You know, after I got my first contract though, it was a ripple effect. You know, so sometimes it's just persevering. You have to persevere to that first one. But the imposter thing is so real and you can't do anything about it. It's kind of like, you know, you got to walk the shoes that don't fit you and you just walk them. You can't do anything about it. But if you want to be successful, you just have to have the steps that you need to do. And I agree 100% with you. One of the things that I have also paid for are coaches. I've had a lot of business coaches in my career for different things, and coaches have helped me through those mental blocks that I've had, and mentors. I've also had good mentors, but unlike a lot of people, I've actually paid for a lot of the things that I need to get to where I am.
Okay. Thank you all for all those very great insights. The chat box is on fire. I don't think I've seen a more engaged audience before. Hugh, I want to come back to you with something you said. You talked about, you know, knowing yourself, and as an introvert, how have you used that as a plus in your business, or how has that benefited you? I know we talked about it being maybe a barrier for networking, but are there other ways that it adds value? And then a second question came for you, so I'll ask them both now, is where do you see Ujamaa going in the next 5 years? So somebody wanted to know kind of your vision for it.
Okay, yeah, so I think on the first question, you know, I think when you think about there are always plus or minuses for every human trait. And I would say, you know, being an introvert and being an engineer, those go very well together, because a lot of what I spend my time doing is, you know, struggling as I put bits together to make a product work. Or even when I was in leadership positions at a corporation, it's really thinking about things like strategy and putting together material that people can read or people can respond to as we move forward. And so I'd say, you know, those are the things that I would see are strengths that come with it. You know, I do a lot of writing, especially when I was in a corporate role. I found that writing was for me, a very effective way of communication. So, you know, a lot of what life is, you know, I've said this in a different forum, is about understanding your superpowers. You know, I define a superpower as a thing that you do that is better than 95% of the world, that you're better than 95% of the world at that one thing. And, you know, unfortunately, most people don't know what their superpower is. And then very few people who have a superpower are able to apply that superpower to the job that they're doing that brings income into their life. And so, you know, if you can align that, if you can know what your superpower is and apply it to your job, you know, then you are in a great position, and you're probably going to be super successful in what you do. And so, of course, part of what you want to do as you're going through life is, again, learning more about yourself, understanding the things that you do well, that you're really passionate about, and then finding those positions, whether it's in the company that you're in now, or whether you have to find a whole different line of work so that you can thrive in that way. So, you know, I think that is advice that's applicable to everybody. About your question about Ujamaa, yeah. So, you know, Ujamaa, we strive to be a venture-backed company. So we are, you know, still at a seed stage. We're raising money, but, you know, our goal, of course, is to grow. You know, our initial focus has been audiences in the United States, but we do want to be a global platform with many millions of people on it. But I would say, you know, the most important thing that we're really trying to accomplish, if you think about our mission, It's really about how do we create a world in which it's much easier for people to support each other, for people to get help and for people to give help. If you think about just here in the United States, you'll find that in the same community where there is so much wealth, you'll find that there are families where children are going hungry, or there may be a situation where somebody has been diagnosed, a woman has been diagnosed with breast cancer and really needs help. You know, there's no extended family, there's no network of people to support her. But the interesting thing, as I've been on this journey with Ujamaa, that I've learned is that most people want to help. If you ask people, hey, would you be willing to help somebody, almost to a person, the answer would be yes. But most of us at the same time are very bashful about asking for help. And so what Ujamaa is really trying to do is bridge that gap by creating a platform where, you know, it's much easier for people to say, here's what I need, and much easier for people to help each other. And I think if we can be successful at that, that will have a very positive impact for communities all over the world. But thank you for that question.
Well, that's so great to hear. In the chat, everybody was asking how to join. I've shared the link a few times, so please subscribe to Ujamaa, and you know, let's share both our burdens and the excess support that we can give to our communities. So we're coming up on time. I'd like to invite Frida, our fearless leader, to share some closing remarks. This has been a very engaging session, and I hope people are taking notes, and we'll share a video afterwards. But I learned so much. I'm re-energized to, you know, go after my goals and step into my inner badass. And you know, I'm very grateful to be part of the session. So Frida, you know, if you could, you know, take us out for the morning.
Whoa, I don't even know where to start. I want to thank Rose and thank Hugh and Constance for their amazing stories, their inspiring words of experiences. And you know, when we started this, I think it was, COVID happened in March for us, right? We didn't know what we're going to do, but everybody thought 2020 was going to be a great year. And in April, everybody started getting very antsy. And then in May, I think everybody had to revisit where they were with their plans for 2020 and their goals. And, you know, the team, and it's not me, it's the team. We have a team of leaders that work together at Zambia 55. And one of the team members, Trina, had put together a lunch and learn, and I attended that. I'm like, wait a minute, how can we leverage this for us? Because several Zambians come and tell me when we engage that I don't network with my own people. And I'm like, why don't you network with Zambians? And they say it's because I don't find them as aggressive as I want to be, or I want to be around Zambians that have goals and are driven and want to achieve. And I'm like, wait a minute, they are there. You just have to find them. And what has started out as people wanting to see more and hear more Zambian stories is what we're really starting out with. And it's just fortunate that through the network, people believe in the same purpose. You know, Hugh mentioned knowing yourself, and Constance talked about the story, and sometimes you don't know where it's taking you. And Constance and I met because she invested in Zambia 55, Zambia at 50. That was what, 5 years ago? She didn't know who I was, but she gave $1,000 donation for our event and wasn't able to come. So when she's talking about that, I've lived it. And since then we've evolved our relationship, and that's what it's about networking, and we continue to work together. So I just want to thank you all for taking time on a Saturday morning, afternoon, evening. I see my cousin in Australia. It's like 2 a.m. there. I see people from Italy, Sylvia, and too many to mention, but specifically for Zambia, our place, our home. We care so much for Zambia. We want to promote Zambians' leadership across the board and do what we can with a purpose-driven approach. So I will say that we continue learning, and thank you so much for coming. We will have a video that we'll send out. I think I see posted on LinkedIn as well as Facebook, as well as social media platforms. So again, thank you so much. And With that, have a fantastic rest of the weekend.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Frida, before you go off, did you want to mention the next events that we have planned?
Oh,
for
yes.
Bella is in love with the next event. So I'm going to let Bella talk about our next brunch and learn. We have them every third Saturday, but Bella, go ahead. You're excited.
Oh, yes, indeed. I am excited. So the next, Ms. Chita, there we go. Thank you very much. Yes, so for our next event, as we said, we try to do these events at least once, or we do them once per month. So the next event that we have is on October the 17th, and we are very grateful that Ms. Mizenga Melu, the ABSA, which formerly was called Barclays Bank, should be joining us as our main speaker for our event in October, and the topic is making a lasting good impression. So most of us have heard of who she is. You know, she's a very successful executive in Zambia and very, very determined. And she has what I would always hear is grit. She's definitely worked very hard to be where she is. So we're definitely looking forward to having her joining us at our next event. So please, when you see the link going out for you to register, please sign up, because we definitely anticipate that this event is going to be very well attended. And just like today's and other past events, it's equally going to be very informative. So again, thank you again for joining us today and for the active participation. The chat was very live, and it was very